Alright class, we're going to learn how to use the horizontal type tool, which is located on the toolbar over here, this T. Sometimes I don't like saying a million syllables, so I'll just call it the text tool. The text tool works in two ways. You can select the color that it's going to be through this. It's not down here, it's up here. All the options related to the text tool are along this top toolbar here. So let's say we wanted to use green as a color. Click anywhere else, and you can just click and begin typing. The reason why it is exiting the canvas is because right now the alignment is set to centered. You can see the anchor in the middle there. Usually people have it at left align, and some designs require you to align your text on the right side. So here we are. You need to usually press the green to confirm or the red to cancel an operation when using the text tool. And if we wanted to modify it, we would need to reselect some of that text, and you need to get close enough to do so. So right now the cursor has a little white box around it. As you move that up, you can see the cursor changes from a box to no box. Once you're in the no box area, that means you're close enough to highlight some text and change that typeface, or change the size of it, or do whatever you'd like. The text tool in Photoshop Elements 8, which we're using, is not as powerful as in some of the other versions of Photoshop that are more professional, complete, such as you don't get to do leading, you don't get to change the distance between paragraph lines, you don't get to do letter spacing or other things like that. So you're a little limited, but functionally you can do as much as you need to. The Move tool can move around text that you've already made. You cannot move around text once you are in the text tool unless you move far away from it enough that you see this black pointer appear, in which case you can click and drag and move that to where you want to go. So you can move text, although it will confirm where you've moved it to. Another way to do that is to hold Control over top of your text and then move that where you want to go. And releasing Control will not automatically confirm your move. So that's my recommendation. If you do want to move text when you're using it, hold Control, drag it where you need to go, drop it, release Control, and you can continue adjusting and modifying this. This changes the font. Some fonts are designed so that they have various styles that can be applied to them, such as italic or bold, and you can even force a style onto it. It's called faux, F-O-U-X, because it means it's not a true, it wasn't actually designed by the designer of the typeface. It just slants the pixels in the math of that formula so that it looks there. Generally, stay clear of these. They're not going to be as good looking as if the font itself has a style that can be applied to it. The font that you're choosing has an enormous amount of power in what gets communicated. So be careful which font you select. It will communicate different messages, whether it's forceful or playful or confident, silly. There's various ways you can let the typeface communicate for you in your design. We already established that if you just click and start typing, you get an area where text can go. But that doesn't work if what you're typing is a big long sentence. It just will extend beyond the canvas. So what you do if you need to have a paragraph of text or a few lines, click and drag out a text box for yourself, and then you can paste the text that you need into there. So for instance, let's just say this is an interesting little paragraph on post-colonial studies. If we want to insert this into here, probably at a smaller font size, and press Control V to paste, the text will wrap automatically to the next line. You don't have to press return to make it do so. So instantaneously, you can resize this box. If you're using the move tool, the bad thing is you can resize the text in such a way that it becomes kind of horrible looking. If you want to resize the box that this all fits in, you will have to go back to the text tool to do so. Click anywhere in it to activate it, and then just hover over one of the anchors so that you can modify the dimensions of that original box. Sometimes you'll do a design where you'd like to have two things aligned. Now this is pretty close, but for example, let's say we had originally started like this. In order to align these two, I find it most convenient to click on one, hold down Shift, click on the other, and using the Move tool, go to Align and Left Edges. An alternative, if you want to be kind of creative with what gets aligned to that, and sometimes even look at what image is below and make that line up, you might want to drag a guide out from the ruler and set it where you'd like it to go. If you zoom in, just pressing Control and Spacebar here to drag an area around where I want to zoom into. You can use the Move tool and drag stuff, and it should kind of, you can line it up right where you'd like it to go. Control 0 to zoom all the way out. So that's using a guide how you can align two things together, or use multiple things, holding Shift to select more than one layer and align them to each other. Sometimes you can get funky effects depending on what you choose. So Control Z to undo your actions. Sometimes it's interesting to work with these letters as pixels instead of letters. So for instance, right now these letters are very decorative. They're heavy. They're almost hard to read because they're so blocky. And if we want to kind of use the inside of that creatively, we can turn these into pixels. So the text layer called Here We Are, you can right click on that, press Simplify Layer, and no longer is this Here We Are editable. Using the text tool, you can see it's, as I go here, you can edit that, but as I go here, that cursor stays with the kind of selection box shape around the cursor, and you can't edit any of that. It'll just drop a new anchor point. My recommendation, of course, is to just drag out boxes wherever you need to anyway, but here you can begin to play with those letters, and on this layer, maybe you want to add an interesting kind of effect with the brush where you're adding just kind of like a faded kind of edge, something that you wouldn't be able to get if it were still in its text mode. Now these are just pixels, just like any other thing. Press Control D to deselect once you've got things selected. So using the selection tool, you could again do some interesting effects and get something unique. If you wanted to select all the letters at once, there's an easy way to do that. Hold down Control over the thumbnail of the layer you want to select and click, and it'll select all the pixels that are in that layer, whether they're letters or parts of an image. Once you have that selected, you can do a broader sweep with the brush, or change the lighting effects on them, enhance them in some way, and you'll be left with something that I hope you've chosen intentionally to communicate a good message. And that's roughly it for the text tool. So explore, enjoy, be careful of balancing those spaces out between areas of text and letters, and communicate well.